Hey guys, my name is D-Free and welcome back to another Marvel Strike Force video. And I recently finished Dark Dimension 6 and I wanted to give you guys some thoughts on the characters that I took into there and if I had any regrets and some recommendations for some of the best characters. I hope you guys enjoy. Be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you are new, and let me know in the comments some of your characters that you are trying to take into Dark Dimension 6. So Dark Dimension 6 is, I'm currently in my second run right now. It is, it's definitely pretty interesting. You know, when you go through it, the unrestricted section in the front is pretty easy. I think the hardest part of this is probably Cosmic, and the reason why I think it's probably the hardest is because they're expecting you to beat it with Super Scroll the second time through, but that does make the first time through pretty tedious. There are some moments where Global is pretty tedious and the Legendary area, but City is not tedious whatsoever. So for a little bit of context for me and my account, that's how things are looking for me. 50 million, just over 50 million. Actually, the unlock for Scroll, I believe, is what pushed me there, along with the extra gear I got. Do I spend money? Yes, I do. But how much do I spend? Not very much, especially relative to a lot of the other players that are going to have Scroll. I probably spend about 100 bucks a month, and that's about it. So that's a lot of money. It just depends who you ask, right? Because there are people that are blowing thousands of dollars a month. But yeah, so anyway, this is how things are looking. And also, I do have the ability to go up from 100 sometimes. Every now and again, if there's like some pretty crazy deal or something, I'll snag that too. So overall, let's take a look at the characters that I took in to Dark Dimension. So we're going to go ahead and sort this out by the gear tier. And we are going to pull up... well, actually, it's just going to start off with all my 18. So the top row there, they're hearted, so you see those characters. Obviously, we'll go ahead and break it down a little bit further. And we go ahead and scroll down here. We see Kang all the way through to Phoenix. Actually, a little bit lower, all the way through to Stitcher. Those are all the characters that I wound up taking. So the characters that I was least impressed with are the ones you would probably expect. I took Stitcher, I took T'Challa. They were kind of just really budget options. Those characters are really cheap. I actually kind of really like the Ravager team anyway. It's not a team that's ever been good, but I kind of just enjoy using them when I can. Unfortunately, I'm never really allowed to in my wars, but when I can. Anyway, so those are characters that I was least impressed with. Firestar, she actually was pretty impressive because her combination with Robbie, Ghost Rider, is pretty insane. I'll talk about that in a minute, but that's pretty much it. I mean, some of these characters were added just now for my second run. After my my first run was complete, I got gear, and the characters that were not a part of my first run are Weaver. I did not have Weaver. I did not have Kestrel. I did not have a Rescue, and I did not have Skrull. All four of those characters were brought up for my second run through. So let's go ahead and break this down, and we're going to go ahead and move over to Global really quick, because that's the first area that you hit. I mean, the unrestricted section in the beginning, I mean, just your first 5 characters you take, regardless of what trait they have, are able to be used there, right? So I mean, I don't really need to break that down. That'll get broken down as we go through. So Global, and we'll also go ahead and sort it by non-legendary too, because Omega Red is in here, and Phoenix as well. So Global non-legendary. Titania, she was I think the first character I took up. She was relatively cheap, so I chose at least 1 to 2 characters that were relatively cheap. And also, one thing I'll say is when you're trying to decide what characters to take, the first piece of advice I'll give you is choose characters you enjoy. Now, that's not the first advice you're going to hear from most players. Most players are going to tell you my second piece of advice as the first piece, and that's to take characters you're going to get the most value out of throughout the game, right? There are characters like her that are good in a couple of different modes, like maybe they'll be good in War, maybe they'll be good as a character in Cosmic Crucible, maybe they're good in Arena, maybe they're good in all the modes, you know? So those are the characters you're going to get the most bang for your buck for, so obviously you want to do those. But I'm a huge advocate of bringing characters up that you enjoy. Now, that's not really the case with Titania. I just like using her as a Cosmic Crucible character. I am relatively competitive there, so I have a pretty big Masters of Evil team, so I thought it was okay to bring her up. And if I could have, I might have brought up Moonstone as well. Moonstone's nothing crazy, but, you know, just to stack that team a little bit more. But I think at this point, my team is so big that I'm getting, you know, diminishing returns, right? Now, I would probably consider bringing Iron Man, but you start running into the problem of these unique pieces. As you see, I just don't have them. Like, I didn't really push anybody else to 18. I just don't have this piece because it's the second newest one, right? And the same goes for the other one that just came out relatively recently, too. So This section is all about Apocalypse, by the way. You know how I talked about how Cosmic was made with Super Skrull in mind? Global was 100% made with Apocalypse in mind. And I'll also add the caveat that small Apocalypse does work here. However, it was made with big Apocalypse in mind. In fact, I don't know if it's bugged or what, but Apocalypse, whenever he dies or whenever you do the next attack after you lose an attack, he automatically comes back with full cooldowns. It's a pretty insane thing that if you don't have Apocalypse, you are flat out missing out on, because he is like absolutely insane in these nodes, and the nodes are tuned around you having him. So if you don't have him, then obviously you're gonna have a terrible time. You can probably slog through and make it through ultimately, but if you are considering your first 5 characters, Apocalypse, he may as well, honestly, because you don't have Skrull, Apocalypse is the next best character in the game. He should be the first character you take up to 18, period. Like, it's just that simple. So yeah, in my opinion, easily take Apocalypse up. I took Venom up because actually the funny thing about this guy, I really like this character. Like I said, I don't spend a lot, but every now and again they'll drop a character I really like, and I will actually summon, or I will actually like open the wallet for that character a lot, right? Like I liked Iron Man that just came out, but I actually did not buy Darkhawk because I don't really care for Darkhawk, but I did like that Infinity War Iron Man, as you kind of saw. I have him already. And I like this guy, so I got him up pretty big. Actually, I only bought him to 5, but the last couple of stars I got just through normal progression. And you use him in raids. I like him a lot, and so obviously he made a lot of sense for me. And also, the bio thing is kind of interesting. Be careful with your bio. As you see, I used a lot of bio for this section. Be careful with your bio because you do want to make sure you have enough for Super Skrull. Now, in terms of global, I took those 2, and I took Black Widow. Black Widow, another character that's really strong. She's really cheap too. She's always been kind of cheap. I think I took her into Dark Dimension 5 as well, as one of my first choices for global too. But yeah, she's cheap. And my girl's texting me, and she's a character you should consider because she's also really strong after her next I think she's been reworked like 3 or 4 times now, but her latest rework for the Infestation team made her valuable, also because Infestation is an okay team as well in different modes like Crucible and in War, but mainly in War obviously, as that's their design choice. And Widow has that super quick stun, super quick cooldown on this effect that can give speed up to everybody. You may want to constantly reset the app, or not reset the app, but restart the fight if you're not getting this on everyone, because it does have a 60% chance. You want to get it on everyone. And also her basic can strip all those effects and stuff. She's pretty strong, and also her stats are through the roof. Look at that damage. She's not a striker or anything like that, but look at the damage, 100,000. Insane character to take up as well. Now the last huge debate was for these 2. This guy takes 1 extra piece, but I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people have slept on this guy and skipped him and stuff. He's ridiculous. Quicksilver is ridiculous. This guy, especially also when you start putting the reds on him, he is crazy. I do not regret this whatsoever. He does cost 1 more piece than Weaver does, and Weaver in her own right is very strong. Like I said, she was not a part of my first run, but she is a part of my second run, and so I'm getting the experience with Weaver now. And I'll tell you, the criticisms on Weaver going in are valid. The main thing people would say is that, yeah, maybe you don't want to use the Mystic gear, which I didn't really have a problem with Mystic gear. I used some on some later sections I'll talk about in a minute when we get to Legendary, but I didn't really have a problem with Mystic gear. But anyway, yeah, but the main thing with her is that she is like losing her charges super quick, because in Dark Dimension there's got like they're always like 10 enemies, right? So like her charges go through super fast, right? And her ultimate's a single hit, and there's all those enemies and stuff. So like she's a good complementary character to Apocalypse. But like that's mostly it. I think honestly, I think Quicksilver has more value. But again, her charges forcing misses is valuable. Don't get me wrong. Quicksilver though, I think is like the next best, and she's probably the 3rd best as a standalone character to take in here. I added Rescue in because of the dual importance with raids and stuff like that. This actually, I wasn't even gonna do this. I did this like literally last night. I was like, you know what, screw it. I'll just push Rescue up. I did buy her 7th red, even though I don't think she needs it because she's a support character. And I got a little bit of play with her today. I actually kind of liked her. Her sustain is pretty nice. She doesn't fall off. Her allies getting the regen and stuff like that. Very valuable. The barrier. She also has a little bit of a health steal on that special too. So doing some percentage based damage. Like Rescue is okay. She's not doing any damage, but at this point, if it wasn't clear, Global is about Apocalypse. So really, outside of Apocalypse, it does not matter who you take. You could choose to take cheap characters. You could choose to take characters that are valuable in other game modes, so you get the dual value like I talked about. You could choose to take characters you enjoy, but it doesn't really matter a ton. Let's go ahead and move on from here. And like I said, I don't really have any regrets. I guess the character I'm least excited about is Venom. Because Venom just, like, he has that one ultimate that does hit hard, but he doesn't really do anything. Like, okay, so outside of Widow, outside of the two Mystic characters and Apocalypse, nobody does anything. Titania, Rescue is okay, and Widow is okay, I guess, like I said, but Venom doesn't do a damn thing. So, like, if I could take one off, I would take Venom off. But he was a part of my initial run. He was pretty cheap, and I had the gear. All right. Let's go from Global over to Cosmic. Cosmic was the hardest section. So Cosmic is tuned around Vol. And not only Vol, I think it's really also tuned around having Vol and having Super Scroll. And by the way, having Vol and Super Scroll together is insane because of those exposed and stuff like that. I did a little bit of testing, just playing, and they work crazy good together. So I'm pretty sure when I get back to Cosmic, it is going to be a free-for-all. Because not only do we have them, we have Kang, who's also one of the best characters in the game, does a crap ton of damage, also has a lot of speed bar manipulation for himself and then for the enemies. Pretty crazy. I took Photon in for my initial run. So my initial run was Vol, Photon, Kang, Star-Lord, and Stitcher. And then for the second run, I'll have added in Skrull and Kestrel, who didn't have a rework at the time, but she was like talked about as being a character you should probably take. But just similar to Rescue, I'm taking her up huge because of the raid importance too. And Kestrel's just an insane character now as well with the extra stats that she has. Again, 113,000 damage now. Kestrel came back in a big way. So yeah, definitely don't sleep on her. So my second run's going to look a lot better than my first one with Skrull, Vol, Kang, Kestrel, and Photon. Photon, also a character with dual importance. She's actually good in numerous modes. Arena, War, and Dark Dimension. So very, very strong. A-Force, a very strong team. A lot of people either did or didn't invest in. If you didn't invest in it, I don't really blame you, but A-Force is insane. A-Force is insane. And obviously Secret Defenders needs no introduction. So I don't regret any characters here, ironically, because these characters, if you choose to take up these characters, you're doing it with the intention of knowing that they're not going to do a damn thing. Like, this guy living to use Stitcher Kit, which he can do relatively often because it's 3 cooldown, is all that I'm asking from him. T'Challa, every now and again, would strip the energy and then the blinds and stuff. That was valuable. And he may actually have a little bit of value in the next run than I do with Kestrel because he'll put those defense downs, and Kestrel obviously can start pinging more. And also with Vol, Kang, and these other hard-hitting characters, he may have a role for me. Like if I refresh the node or something like that and try again, he may get slotted in and you know, save me a few cores or something. But really, largely, Super Skrull is going to run this, and then Vol. So Vol is another dual importance character, good in a lot of game modes, and I'm actually testing her to see if she can do anything in Arena. I think I want to get that 6th star. I've been hunting for those last 2 shards for a while. But yeah, Vol is interesting because she actually has Dark Dimension text. They don't put out a lot of characters that have Dark Dimension text, but she does. So the same way she functions in raids, she does function that same way in Dark Dimension. Unfortunately, obviously, unless you're running more of her allies, which you can do because her whole team, I think, is Cosmic. Like, yeah, Beta Ray is down here, Sylvie is there. Yeah, they're all Cosmic. If you wanted to run that team in here, there's dual value, right? I wouldn't blame you. But I don't think you should probably take anyone else up because we talked about Mystic gear. I didn't really find a problem with that, but that was also because I wasn't really trying to take too many up. Like I was using tech gear. Like here, I have 4 characters that were all tech gear that I took up, right? So there is value in doing that. Again, I don't really regret anyone else. Another character I would probably consider that has dual importance, could be useful, could be okay, is Star-Lord here, but I mean, that's pretty much it. And also, everybody hates this guy because he didn't get the crazy rework, but he's also relatively cheap and could be a character you slide in. And also, I've seen people starting to put a little bit of respect on his name in other modes because of the resistance gain here with Secret Defenders. That could be super duper strong, but it just depends on if you want to build him up. I built him up before when they announced the rework, but before we saw the details. I actually don't really regret it though, because I'm more of a completionist. If I can get my characters built out, I'm cool with that. Okay, so We've talked about these. Let's talk about City. Now, City is probably the most fun section because City you kind of blitz through if you have Robbie. If you have Robbie, you blitz through it because all those bleeds you're putting out, his turn meter bar starts going insane. He is getting turn after turn after turn, and all those debuffs are stacking up. Enemies are dropping like flies. Also, City wasn't tuned hard because there is no crazy character like Skrull or Apocalypse that people would be bringing into City. So, comparatively, City is just easier content throughout than the rest of Dark Dimension, pretty much. Maybe not as easy as the original section. I'm not sure if the original, like, couple of nodes because you could bring whoever you want, right? I think it showed it. I took Apocalypse and Skrull and just ran through it, right? So, like, I don't know if it's that easy comparatively, but taking that out of the equation, it's not even close. City is the easiest part, and again, it's not close, but that's if you have Robbie. Robbie is the one that basically solos that content, and yeah, so bring him up for sure. Definitely want to bring up Miss Marvel too. Again, dual important. Secret Defenders is the new Darkhold. They're good everywhere. You just bring these characters up to 18, all of them. Secret Defenders, just bring them all up. Maybe not Strange like I talked about, but if you want to, whatever. And yeah, Black Cat also, I'm going to talk about her in a minute, but yeah, bring them all up. So then the question turns into, well, who should I bring up? I talked about A-Force. Spider-Woman is pretty solid. I think she costs one more piece than $20.99. $20.99's value is not as high as it was a while ago. Before, actually, you know when his value fell off? When they gave everyone the free 7-star Weaver. Why? Because immediately after that, they were like, nah, we're going to shut this down. They shut down Weaver instantly. They killed her in the meta and PvP, stuff like that, in Arena, excuse me. And yeah, that's when his value started really falling. Because I actually don't think Apocalypse had that part in his kit where he can't miss until they gave out those. I gotta go back and look at the timeline, but I didn't really mind having him because the flips is cool here. He also got the speed bar, that was fine. Also, the basic was actually pretty clutch because it would do the defense down and the bleeds, and that does chain very nicely with Robbie and also with Firestar. I think I talked about her briefly. Firestar is kind of squishy, but the debuffs are very, very nice. Flipping those positives to negatives could flip some regens into bleeds. That's very good. Giving slows and defense down, also very good, obviously. Her ultimate, though, just throws bleeds and offense downs or repeats the attack numerous times. Probably drops a bunch of vulnerables, too, because the crits. Also, her basic is okay, but it does bleeds. And the key thing is, again, with this team, if you bring characters that drop bleeds, Robbie's going to be insane because he'll just keep getting speed bar, speed bar, speed bar. He'll throw all his ultimates and all that stuff, and he's just going to shred everything. And again, they start falling like flies, ultimately. But outside of Robbie and Miss Marvel, I don't think that anybody else is really a required character. So I didn't really mind bringing this character, but she kind of was whatever, too, if I'm being honest. She didn't really do a ton. Her ability to just be a wall is good. I believe she gives barrier to allies. Yeah, barrier self and allies. That was good too. Also did cleanse and give defense. Like, this stuff is good. And also the speed bar down here. But you're really bringing this character up because she is a character you want to bring up regardless. Like, you want to. There are characters that you want to take up regardless, and she is one of them. So you want to bring her up as big as possible because she's your anti-apocalypse character. So you just want to take her up regardless for any content. So like Arena, whatever. So you want to do it. So outside of that, other characters to consider, like I said, I talked about Spider-Woman. I think the question would be Spider-Woman versus $20.99. I believe Spider-Woman may have a little bit more value. It just kind of depends right now, right? Because $20.99 is still strong in Crucible and a little bit in War too. But A-Force is just better than Tangled, obviously, because Tangled isn't even a War team. So there's that. But outside of that, I did take Chi up, and I actually kind of regret Chi because I do think he's kind of on his way out. The guy's like 2 years old. I mean, he's still got some fun stuff in his kit. Ironically, he's got some of the stuff like the heal here and stuff because he was so bugged. He was crazy bugged on release. We haven't seen as many characters that have been bugged like Shang-Chi on release, actually, in a long time. So, yeah, I kind of regret him. If I could, I would take Ronin up instead. But again, you run into the problem with Ronin of, like, this piece. So, really, all in all, what you take up kind of depends on how much of this you have. Like, not this piece specifically, but this unique piece on each character. That's really what it comes down to. It's not just if you have the tier 18 pieces, right? It's also that. Like, if I wanted to take Cloak up, I couldn't, for example, because I just apparently use these miasmas somewhere else. I'm not really sure. Maybe Skrull used these. I'm not sure. But yeah, so if I wanted to, I couldn't, right? So it just kind of is what it is. But outside of that, I mean, I was very happy with my choices. I would consider Gwenpool But again, she's Mystic, so she's kind of tough to bring in. I think she also might be kind of expensive too. So it just, if you are going to be somebody that cares about how expensive the gear is, that's another part of it too. If you're trying to like take your time, you're trying to go through quickly, that also is a factor. Now, last character I'd mention is Big Time. I actually don't think Big Time would be crazy there. He does have some value. He's strong in Arena for that disrupt on Miss Marvel turn 1. However, I no longer need him in Arena because I picked up Skrull and now I can go to 1 and just chill. There is one other Skrull that had been sitting. That guy spent a lot of money. Excuse me. He had been sitting in 1 for like a month and a half. So he got Skrull really fast. Basically, he was like the top 100 characters to get Skrull, maybe faster than that, maybe top 50. And he was sitting in 1 for a long time. So I couldn't beat him. I beat him once, by the way, one time with Secret Defenders. I don't know how I even did it. But yeah. But this guy is strong in Arena versus just regular Secret Defenders Apocalypse though. But I no longer need him, and since that's the case, I personally wouldn't. I didn't, and I personally wouldn't take him up. But if you do need him, then there's value there. But again, relatively new piece. Do you want to bring him up or not, right? So let's go ahead and move on, and we'll talk about from here the legendary characters. Now, legendary is kind of interesting because they went out of their way for the first few legendary nodes to make it so you couldn't bring your horsemen because they knew everybody had Gear 17 horsemen. If they've got Big Apocalypse, you've got a big Gear 17 horseman roster, right? So they knew everybody had that, and that would just mean you had to upgrade 1 tier and you were good. So no, they decided to make us build other characters. Now, that's kind of a double-edged sword because characters like Nova and Black Cat are really good standalone characters or good characters on their teams. Nova's like the core of his team, and his team's only really good in war, but Black Cat's team is good everywhere, and she's obviously the core of her team. And most likely Green Goblin is coming out soon, and he'll be really strong. And so it's not really the worst thing because these are characters that, again, you probably want to build up anyway. Like I've mentioned with Black Cat and her team, Secret Defenders, Miss Marvel, Robbie, those are characters you want to build up anyway. So you're automatically, I'm going to assume everybody is automatically going to take her as like their first choice, right? Because she's too valuable. I think she is, and I actually think this is a hot take, ironically. She's probably the most valuable character on this page. It's between her and Red Hulk, who I'll talk about Red Hulk in a minute. But anyway, yeah, I think she's actually kind of easily the most valuable character. And there is valuable in some other characters too, like I said, like Nova and stuff. So I chose Warlock and I chose Omega Red. These were the last 2 regular legendary releases, I believe, before they started doing Scourges and all that stuff, right? So anyway, why did I choose these 2? First and foremost, I had a little bit of Mystic gear, but I did get stalled here. I ran through City so fast that I wasn't ready for Legendary. I was beating City in like 2 to 3 attacks. Like you run through City really easily, and so it took me just a few days to beat City because I was expecting to hit a wall because I hit several walls in Cosmic because Cosmic was tedious as hell. But again, I took 2 Ravagers too. But regardless, I had Kang and Vol, who are the best 2 characters to take there. I mean, now you could argue Skrull and Kestrel, obviously, for me, but you get the point. So yeah, so basically I ran into a situation where I had to wait because I wasn't ready, right? And so thankfully they put out that battle pass recently that had insane amounts of gear tier 18, and I got that, and that gave me the pieces that I needed for this guy and for Omega Red. Omega Red I think needs 66 of each piece for 18, and then this guy I think needs 88, so they're a bit more expensive. But I mean, outside of the top few characters, there's a huge drop off here. When you say non-horsemen, you're looking at nothing, right? You're looking at those characters who are all the characters I did aside from Phoenix are the newest characters. Why did I do Phoenix? Because Phoenix is a character that is designed to just die and then strip a bunch of health off. Whenever she comes back and she does her special here, she steals 20%. These guys have a crap ton of life, so 20% is a lot of life to take off of everybody. It's pretty crazy. So that's why. And she's also relatively cheap, so I didn't mind bringing Phoenix. Where you hit roadblocks with Phoenix is when there's a freaking Ebony Maw, because he's gonna give the team like barrier and crap like that. I think immunity and barrier, and then also because he was designed to counter this character. And then also you run into a block with Kestrel. Every now and again I think there was like a Kestrel on those legendary nodes where I would just take off Phoenix. I'm not sure if that was a secondary legendary part where you were allowed to use Apocalypse or not, but yeah. So I took that top row. I felt pretty good with it. I didn't really regret anything. I like the control. With Adam Warlock, I have a stun and an ability block and the debuff prolonging right here on the basic. And he also has revive. I didn't mind that. I have 2 ability blocks here. I also have, what, a trauma? Yeah, trauma there. And then this guy's basic doing the stealing of 10% health on the ISO attack is very strong. I did flip this guy to a skirmisher and him to a raider, though, because I did need not full strikers, right? Nova's pretty strong, too. The neutron star, giving off the bonuses that it does, is pretty good. And then the stun here, and also he's still pretty tanky. His resistance is very high, and he worked out pretty good. Black Cat having a stun, so I had a lot of control, right? I had a lot of control with Black Cat doing the speed manipulation, stun, all that stuff. So I had a lot of control. I was very happy with that. Now, if I were to able to redo it, I would take in Fury, but I didn't have the skill gear. I still don't have the skill gear. Who did I use the skill gear on? Oh, Black Cat, duh. Yeah, so after putting it in Black Cat, I just didn't have it. Even after my first run through, I still don't have it. And yeah, so basically, I mean, the question is, like, outside of that top row, who would you plug in? And it really comes down to whoever you're using the most, what you have. I would personally not do any on the bottom row. I think you could get some value out of Invisible Woman, but she's really squishy. She hasn't been buffed like ever, I don't think. She hasn't been buffed since I've been playing. I've been playing for like 1,000 days, so she's pretty dead in the water. I did take her into Dark Dimension 4, I believe. That's why she's 1685. So yeah, I did take her up once a while ago. Jubilee has some control stuff, but again, power creep character I wouldn't take up. Same with Ak. Shuri has been reworked. She is a battery. She's a character you could take up as well. If you wanted to do that, I wouldn't really say that's the worst choice, but again, I don't really think she's the best there. I did take her into DD5. Magneto is simply too damn expensive. I wouldn't take him up anyway. Now, when you're able to do the Apocalypse section, keep in mind that my top 5, Phoenix was able to get subbed out for Apocalypse. So my top 5 got a lot better in those last couple of nodes when Apocalypse became available. And what they do in those last couple of nodes is they allow you to use Apocalypse and they allow you to use Horseman. So if you were able to bring a Horseman, the choice would be Red Hulk. Now, the problem with Red Hulk is I would personally not take him because I think you should immediately take Scroll Up. So unless you've got a ton of gear to do 2 G18 bio characters after completing, I think you get 44 of each and you could get some crafted pieces. Unless you got all that, I wouldn't do Red Hulk. I saw people already take Red Hulk up super quickly as one of their first 5 characters. I just don't think that's great because you can only use them on like 4 nodes in the entire thing, which is not a little bit. It's a good amount of nodes, but you can only use them in the very beginning and the very end, right? And so if you already had to take up 5 legendaries anyway for the previous nodes of legendary at the end, why would you have like 7-8 legendaries unless it's your second run, right? So on my second run, I'm not actually planning on taking any. I can take Rogue up. I could have earlier. What did I use this on? I gave things 16. So okay, when I get 2 more of these, I could take Rogue up. I could take Archangel up too, I believe. I'm not going to do either, and I'm just going to kind of leave them. I don't think I'm going to put anything in anyone else. I think Morgan still has value. I think she's good, but I wouldn't bring Morgan up. Just too expensive, too much Mystic gear as well. I think she uses 4 pieces. No, it looks like 3 pieces. Yeah, 3 pieces isn't too bad, but also I run into the problem of never having these osmium things. As you see, it's not like I've done a lot of investment with them. I just don't have them. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I wouldn't really change anything else. I do think Fury has value, though. I think Fury is maybe the best of the older characters when you consider, like, everyone pre-Adam Warlock. Okay, Adam Warlock and earlier. Like, I think Omega Red came out after Warlock. But everybody before Omega Red, I think Fury's the best one for sure. And actually, Fury may be better than Red, too, for the record. Because he drops those summons. And Fury also has more value right now. I think Fury is a plug-and-play character. You can put him in a lot of different modes because he's very strong as a character. His summons are really good, too. And then also Fury has that value in raids. So Fury is a character I would take up. Now, the problem with Fury, like I said, is this dude is expensive as all hell. He needs 5 of these pieces, dude. 22 times 5. He is peak expensive to take up. So I can't do it on the second run either because I just don't got it. Actually, when I complete my second run, I could probably take him to 18, and I may do that simply for the raids because when you take him to 18, obviously his minions are going to 18 as well. So yeah, you definitely want to build your characters like Fury that summon as high as you can because the minions do get stronger. So I'm going to conclude there. Like I said, I didn't really have any regrets. Ironically, with my entire roster, I didn't have any regrets for mostly any character I took to 18, right? Aside from, like, I think Venom, I think, was probably my worst choice. But even then, I'm not too mad at it because there weren't very many choices I could take in aside from, like, Quicksilver and Weaver together. I took, again, Quicksilver on the first run by himself, no Weaver, and I'm taking Weaver in the second run. I added Rescue in the second run. And so Venom and Titania are getting benched for now. But, like, the point of that section is Apocalypse, right? So it doesn't really matter a ton. The point of City is Robbie, so it doesn't really matter a ton who you're bringing. If you want to really get the value, you're bringing Miss Marvel as well, because they also do have some synergies there, of course, and you are bringing characters that can drop some bleeds, because that'll just make Robbie even that much better. The point of Cosmic is, I mean, it's really Super Scroll, but obviously on your first run that doesn't count. So the point of Cosmic is Vol. Vol actually kind of solos that a lot. Like, Kang is very good, but he does a lot of damage if you got a big Kang. If you don't have a huge Kang, by the way, I think Kang could be kind of sketchy because he could be kind of squishy, things like that, right? But you have to have a huge Kang like I do to kind of really make him pop off. I think he's still valuable regardless, right? But, like, if you're trying to go absolute best, you would take somebody like Dorm, you'd take Doom, you'd take all these other characters, and it just comes down to how quickly do you want to get through it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this in-depth video where I broke down all of my choices and gave you guys some other recommendations. Have an awesome day, and I will see you all in the next one.